Good morning and welcome to Spiritual Coffee. I'm Julie Coraccio in with
Angela Coulter, good morning. Good to see everybody again.
really excited what we're going to talk about today, and I find it so interesting. Angela and I used to decide usually the day before, hey, this is what I've been thinking about, but apparently the universe has other plans, and we're literally deciding 10 minutes before we start the show. So I was this morning when I was posting about the event on Google Plus, I saw this interesting hashtag, and I've seen it a couple times, and so it is inspiring today's conversation, because when you're hashtagging on Google Plus, if you do it a lot, then it automatically comes up. So there's someone who's hashtagging this a lot. Spiritual growth does not come naturally, and so that's what we're going to talk about this morning. And there are two sides to that coin, so we're going to discuss both of them. All right, Angela, why don't you start us off?
Oh my God, I don't know which way. Which way should we start with? Because it's awesome. It is an awesome topic. Well, it's funny because what I was saying to Julie when we were talking about this beforehand is I see a number of people. This is something that's really interesting. I see a number of people, and part of my job is to get them to actually become completely responsible and active and empowered in their own spiritual growth. And, the funny thing is, once we actually get there, it is so easy and natural, and we're like, oh my God, because that makes life so much easier, right? But many times, it is quite the roadblock to work through with somebody to get them to the point of allowing themselves to be empowered and know that they're empowered and whatever. So there's a lot of stuff there's so much stuff that's attached to that. Because it really, my whole thing when it comes to the bigger picture, and I'll just go right to the end comment, and we'll work backwards from there. Is of course it does come naturally, but first the thing is, the but is and we need to the key is to work through what it is that's preventing you from believing and allowing yourself to know that you have all the power within you to get where you want. And what I was saying to Julie is, there's so many times I watch somebody just flounder and fight it and say, I don't want to do it, and it's like, no, I want you to tell me what to do. I want somebody else to tell me what to do, and then that doesn't work out, so they go to somebody else to tell them what to do, and they go to somebody else to tell them what to do until they realize at some point, oh, wait a second, I've got to do this. And if you took all the energy that somebody's putting, like many times I just think, and there's no judgment with this, but this is just the reality and observation of how we've gotten, and this is part of the duality thing and whatever. But it's like, if we take all of the energy that we put into avoiding our spiritual growth and avoiding coming into our own power, and just redirected it, do you know how easy our paths would be? It would just be so easy.
But I wonder, as you're talking, if there is a certain layer that you hit, or if there's a certain, what I'd probably call a light bulb moment, because I was definitely one of those people that I would seek answers from someone else and outside of me. And then I went through a stage where I didn't want to do that, but then I'd be like, like, really, do I want to look within? And it's kind of like, you talk about it. When you look at the amount of energy wasted avoiding, it's so much easier, to, whether it's healing, whatever it is, to look at that stuff. But I wonder if you have any thoughts, because I think there is something that crosses or switches or happens that gets us over that hump. Now I don't seek advice from others, but you're someone that I'll talk to and say, like, I'm batting this around. Do you have any thoughts? And I love it because you usually say something that triggers something that allows me to go within and find it. But sometimes I'm stuck and need a little push in the right direction. So what do you think about that?
Well, that's absolutely, that's absolutely the best of all worlds, and that's what I tell a lot of people who work with me and my students and friends and everything else is, well, the key is, of course, we're here as reflections of each other too, right? However, the key is the initial effort is within, and then everything comes, and everything else that, if we're stuck because we can't see it when we're looking within, then we'll have others come to us with the message that we need. But it goes back to that whole discernment, and is this my truth? Is this the highest and best for me? All that kind of stuff, because all the messages that are coming back to you are also getting filtered through other individual journeys, So I always tell people, ask within first. The key is to get to the point of, working within first, doing the self-work, and then going to other people. Yeah, like, you know what? I always encourage the people, like when I do with the Trinity Energy Progression, I encourage everybody to do shares with each other all the time. But I tell them that's secondary to your own work, because the key is to get to this place of self-empowerment, self-responsibility, and independence. And the funny part is, if you look at the word independence, right, dependence on what's within is how I see it, which is really, you know, very like key and crucial to us moving forward collectively as well. So you do it in a great way because you work within yourself, and then you ask if you sort of get stuck, or you just want, you know, like sometimes you'll say, okay, I know somebody who says, all right, fine, this is what I got, and I just want to validate that, so give me the message in 3 other ways, or something like that, and it comes to them in 3 other ways in their, you know, waking life. So
excellent. I want to say good morning to all our viewers and remind you, you put it up as a Q&A to say good morning to us, and if you have any questions or comments or thought, please chat them in and I will read them and we will do that. You know, Angela, I wanted to bring up an interesting point about that because of something I posted on Facebook yesterday, and I used to watch a show on the air ages ago, but he was from the South, and he'd be like, save the drama for your mama. And, you know, there was a Polish proverb of no circus, not my circus, not my monkeys. And I posted it and got a lot of responses because it's so interesting how the ego will take us away from working on ourselves to get us caught up in someone else's drama. And, yeah, man, did I used to do that all the time. And thankfully I have what I'm in a place now where I like can see it coming like an airplane and go, okay, come on, and pass me by and observe it. And know, but not get caught up in it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, some of the people that I work with and some of my friends, they say that it's a nacho problem. But you're right, and that's actually a key area of avoidance. And some people who are actually very adept spiritual practitioners, they actually have retrained, their ego has retrained them to then, and you know, like give them the excuse of, well, I'm working on other people, I'm working with other people, they get caught up with other people, and then when you ask them, well, what about your own work? Oh, well, yeah, I haven't done anything for myself, or yeah, I do it once a week. Yeah, you know, it's sort of like, what I find is that I've become so here's the funny thing that I talk about. I become so in the habit of just every day doing whatever work I need to do, looking at whatever is like maybe a little bit of resistance, and you know, and this 3D and working on that. So yeah, I do shares with others and whatever. But the funny part is when something big comes up that's very uncomfortable, I'm very adept now at observing it without getting caught in it. Like you're saying, like watch that plane go on by kind of thing. But what I have found, though, because there was somebody at one of my open discussion groups that had a great term for it. She said, you know, when I don't feel like I can adequately look at it without losing myself in it, she said, I put it on the spiritual shelf, which I think is really sort of cool. Like, she goes, I just put it on the shelf and say, okay, this is for later, to be without interference of everything I need to get done. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm just putting you on the shelf so it'll come back. So I was like, oh, that's great. So what I did was, if something like, I went through this period where there was all this stuff that's coming up, and it was great and productive, and I'd be like, oh my God, I have like 4 sessions or 5 sessions today, and I've got a group tonight, and this, that, and it's like, okay, I'm going to put you on the spiritual shelf. So I tried that, and then what started happening was, I would do that, and then inevitably all of the sessions, all of the people that I talked to that day, guess what they would come back around with me to? Is the same problem, the same issue, the same observance. And this way, what I found, it was so helpful to me, because my higher self was saying, well, fine, you know, this is all reflections. We're all part of each other, right? So we all are going essentially through the same thing from the collective in our individual manifestation. So let's just present it to you. I'm just going to present it to myself in a way that I can look at it objectively without getting lost in it, because now it's the perception of me working on somebody else or working with somebody else. So that actually helps, right? However, I sort of have the caveat in there. I believe that happens because of the fact I am so active in doing my self-work that my higher self's like, yeah, why even let it sit there? You know, let's just get rid of it. And yeah, we're just going to manifest everybody who comes to you to look at it, so that by the end of the day, it's going to be gone anyway, because you're going to have worked through that with everyone else. So, you know, it's really funny because that is a big part of our spiritual growth, is being able to observe without getting lost in it, right? Being able to watch the plane go by instead of jumping on the plane. And you're right. I see, like I said, I see so many spiritual practitioners who get caught up in everybody else's stuff, and it is an ego's way, a very sneaky way, the ego to say, yeah, we can just throw this in here so we don't have to look in the mirror on ourselves, like, you know, because that's way too uncomfortable. And I sometimes have to play the tough love, you know, person, you know, with somebody that I'm working with and saying, you know what, yeah, keep on trying to point someplace else. And I'll be like, nope, that's not what we're talking about. Where's your self-work going, you know? And that's where we make it feel like it doesn't come naturally, because the ego puts up all of these blockages. It says, oh, this is just too uncomfortable, or it's too hard. It makes me think of my daughter, when she was, I don't know, I think it was like 4th grade, like, so she was, what, 10 or 11, there was this, they changed the grading system in the schools, and it was like, instead of ABCs, they started doing this 1, 2, 3, 4 thing, and 3, it was really weird. It was like this bell curve thing where like 85% of the students would get 3s, and that just said that they were working at grade level, which sort of made us a little nuts and stuff. But at the same time, my daughter was like at 9 or 10 reading it like a 12th grade level, and she was really advanced in English, and we're like, why do you keep on getting 3s? I don't know. And she'd be like, I don't know, the teacher, yeah, I have no idea. And I'd be like, you sure your teacher's not telling you how to get 4s? Because most of the teachers, you know, and this was the first year they were doing this, and she's like, yeah, no. And so I called the teacher, and I said, and the teacher said to me, you know, and she laughed, and she goes, well, every project I give them, I actually give them a little grid that tells them what they have to do to get a 3 or 4, you know, whatever. So I remember, fast forward at the end of the day, I come home from work, my daughter comes home. I said, you know, I remember I was standing in the kitchen. This was so funny. I said, you know, I talked to your teacher today. And she goes, and I said, well, she said that every project that she gives you, she tells you what you need to do, exactly what you need to do to get a 4. So I look at my daughter, and she has this moment of, like, just this look of this, like, such avoidance, right? Her physical body drops to the floor in the kitchen. This was so hysterical. Drops to the floor, and she goes, but it's so hard. It's so much work. And that sort of sums up what we're talking about, because so many people are sort of figuratively doing that. It's like, oh, it's so much work. I'd rather you tell me what to do. Tell me what to do so I don't have to think about it, so I don't have to make myself uncomfortable, so it doesn't have to be icky or sticky or heavy. But the thing is, when we do that, we avoid it going away. Essentially, the key is to get to the point of, this is all mine, and it's for me to really clear this out and really move forward in a really accelerated way. It's really important to look in the mirror. Completely.
Absolutely. You know, and it's interesting, as you were talking, avoidance, but I have seen some people who are very spiritual, like, just can't even acknowledge. I mean, you know, at least you could be like, okay, like, I have to deal with it later. I'm not ready. And, you know, another thing I like to do, I like the spiritual shelf. I'm gonna try that, but then I'll probably come right in my face. So, you know, but what I tend to do is say, okay, you know, I have this, I'm struggling. I don't know what my role is and what I need to know about me. So please, I ask for help. And, you know, and usually that's a good way. In dreams, a lot of times I'll get a message in that, and I find that helpful too. But, you know, I've also found, I'm wondering if you've encountered this, because you work with a lot of spiritual people as well, is that there's this hierarchy. So, for instance, if you know, I'm open to you because I know you so well, but, like, I know someone who, unless you're nationally known or internationally known, or you're like the big cheese, they won't listen to you. They see you as lower, and even though you're a spiritual person, and it's interesting because this person's fairly well known, but I would say on the spiral, you know, that's one of their challenges, is not accepting, you know, hey, you got to look in the mirror about stuff. And when people said in a kind way, you know, here's my observation, like, they just brick wall.
Yeah, and that's really common. The thing that, and the other on the other end of that, one of the biggest practices is that we have gotten in the practice of duality and disempowerment. We've gotten to such a practice of allowing others to tell us what is good for us and what isn't good for us without ever checking with our own internal radar, right, or our own internal guidance, that it's really funny to watch somebody. Oh, so speaking of that, it's funny, I got an email, like, I have a meetup group, right? So I had somebody email me the other day, and they said, and they know the nature of what I do and that this is my profession and everything else, and they're like, well, I have somebody really well known who I want to host for a workshop in this area, and if I, and they said they would do it if I could get it together, and if I did that, would you help me promote it with, with the connections you have? That was all the information they gave me. No name, no topic, no what this workshop would be about. Just would you, because, and right away it was like, oh, it's a really well-known person, and I'm like, so, I don't really care, and what I emailed them back is, if my guidance dictates, absolutely, but first of all, who's the person? What's the workshop about? And then I'll ask my guidance. And then if it's yes, then I'll help you. If not, not. So, but many times it's so funny as we get lost. And if somebody is a really big name, quote unquote, right? Or and I've even had that. I've even had that with people, like, because of the fact that I started a practice, since I started Trinity Energy Progression, right? I have some people that will just want to talk to me, and I laugh at that because sometimes I'll deflect them over, a lot of times I'll deflect them over to people that are working locally with them or something like that. And now that we're starting to get more instructors, it'll be interesting to watch that dynamic. But there are definitely people I know who, even practitioners, who will only talk to me, and they don't want to really talk to other practitioners because they only feel like that my stuff, it's really weird. And I'm going, well, that's not the thing. The thing is that we're all in here as the divine, and we're all recognizing ourselves and each other as that. And so I don't look at myself or anybody else as above anybody, anyone else. It's just a matter of how far we've come into remembrance. And what's really shocking is that some people who are very well known have a lot of remembering to still do, and they still hold that hierarchy of, I need to be on a pedestal, and you need to come to me and ask me, like, I need to tell you what to do, and if you don't do what I tell you, then you're stupid, and that still goes on a lot in the spiritual world.
Right, and I think that has finally started to shift. That's my observation. But I had I hate getting old. I had a thought and I didn't write it down, and it's popping out now. But this is it. So it's interesting because we talk so often about we have all we need inside and trusting our inner guidance. And it's interesting to me if, like, for instance, if one of your Trinity people popped in someone's vision, to me that's the universe saying, hi, this is something you should explore, potential work with, but circumventing that and being like, I'm going to only talk to the person that created it, instead of the universe putting their path, because I was talking to someone, they said, oh, how great that is, the universe put that right in your path. But that, again, okay, here, right in center, and then, well, I'm going to go do what I want, what the ego wants.
Right. And then actually, if that ever happens, and that gets back to me, I'll just sort of laugh, and I'll, when I'm talking with the person, be like, well, yeah, why would you discount that? That came from the other person, and or why would you avoid these other people when these are all family and we're all the divine, and we're all like, and that's part of this practice, but it's really funny to watch to others who teach in other areas, right? So teach in other spiritual areas, and yet. And what's interesting is that here's another very, very masterful way that I've seen happen. Those who teach, they want to have that persona of being the teacher, right? And to them, the persona of being the teacher is, I am infallible and perfect, and nobody can see my flaws, and so I have to hide them so that you can hold me on a pedestal and think I'm that way. Because somehow that feeds their ego, right? Or that actually convinces them then I don't have to do the work that is causing me to feel like I need to be on the pedestal or whatever. And somebody had said to me one time about that, oh, well, you like, because I was saying, well, it's sort of lonely sometimes, and then they're like, well, you like being on the pedestal. I said, it's not that I don't like being on the pedestal, it's that I want everybody to be on the pedestal with me, because everybody is on the pedestal with me, because we're all freaking awesome. So the thing is these are so intertwining, such intertwining topics, right? It goes back to what we started talking about, is the spiritual growth doesn't come naturally. It does. It's a matter of being really conscious of coming to the place of knowing when we absolutely accept that I am perfect and divine and I have all the answers within, then of course I have to accept that so do you, because we're all the same.
Right.
And so the thing is, but also if you come to me and say, well, I know this and this is what I do, and I love that because it's sort of funny because this is the shift, right? You're talking about it shifting.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many in the what I call the old spiritual regimes, quote unquote, which is from maybe the 70s and 80s and stuff like that.
Earth 1.0, Universe 1.0.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, okay, well, I know how to do this, and therefore I'm special, and you need to listen to me, and I need to tell you what to do. Where the newer regime of the Earth 2.0, the Universe 2.0 is we're all doing this together. Like, so awesome. What do you get? Like, what are you getting for yourself? And I have so many people ask me, well, what do you get for this? And I say, well, what do you get for it? If you're asking for yourself, then what did you get for yourself? I'm not going to give you the answer. It's the fish or learning to fish kind of thing. But, going back to the spiritual growth doesn't come naturally. Absolutely it comes naturally because our natural state is being in divine unconditional love, and all of this other stuff, from how I perceive it, all of this stuff that we've created in duality, that's the effort, that's the energy we're putting into partitions and separation and pretending we're separate and pretending we have hierarchy and pretending that we don't have the answers. And when we stop fighting that and we start pulling that out and then trusting and then teaching the ego how to still exist in that whole, because that's what happens is, the ego gets really sort of scared and says, well, I was here, I was created to create identity and separation and explore that, and you're taking that away, and that's really uncomfortable. And it becomes a drama queen and then starts throwing up all this stuff that makes you feel like it's too challenging to look at it. But the thing is, because of that, because of the habit that we've gotten into, it's time for us to change our habits, right? So because the reason it doesn't come naturally to us, spiritual growth and spiritual practice, is because we haven't been in the practice of being actively conscious and focused on our spiritual growth from a holistic point of view. So when we change it, to me, the most natural thing in the world is for me to go do my meditation and self-work in the morning. And when I don't have to do it, or when I don't get to do it, I feel like I'm missing something. Like I feel like there's something missing out of my day. Like I forgot to eat breakfast. I forgot to brush my teeth this morning. I feel like, oh my gosh, it's a habit. So when we allow ourselves to be in that habit and we realize how much it benefits us and it helps us accelerate, it sure does come naturally, and that's my perspective on it. What do you think?
Well, I have two thoughts. First of all, I'm going to update this hashtag to say spiritual growth does not come naturally, so says my ego. More accurate hashtag and start that movement. But I was going to say, I think I have my aha moment when I talked at the beginning about, their layers and what was it that changed instead of seeking outside help all the time. Or part of the process for me was because when I fully embraced, I kind of tiptoed into it, that I create my reality, then you know what, when you own that and see that, then that for me was a shift saying like, okay, you can't put it out there, you can't get involved in the drama, because if you've created it, you have the ability, if you created it, you can solve it, but then that's another thing about having to own it, and that, at least for me, was a very important part of my process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, if there's a lot of drama that's going on around you, the important thing to look at is why, right? Because I love it when people say, oh my gosh, it just seems to be every person I know, every person I meet, there's always all this drama, blah, blah, blah. So then the next question is to look inside and say, so what is that saying mirroring back to me? And again, this is that whole self-reliance, and you're saying, am I addicted to drama? And people laugh when I say that comment, but look at our society. Our whole world is addicted to drama, or else we wouldn't have like all of the news that we have and all of the weird wars and fights and we have been through this whole duality thing. We have gotten to this pinnacle of drama addiction, right? And so one of the things that we don't realize is I'm addicted to drama. I feel like for an experience to be valid, I must make it dramatic, or I must have a dramatic experience, right? That's a big belief to release, and then once you release, you can change that so that, oh, all of my experiences can be fun and graceful and easy and flowing and just as worthwhile in that form versus the other.
All right, I have a thought, and let's discuss this for a moment, because I have a global thought and would love to know what you think. So let's take something like, I still read the news. I like to be informed, and hopefully we'll end that at some point. But I read the Daily Mail, which is a UK paper, because I feel like I learn more about what's going on in my own country from someone else. But the Kardashians I'm like, what is this? This is a newspaper. And no matter what newspaper or news site, there's a gossip column or gossip area or entertainment or whatever they call it. And so just as you were talking, I'm wondering, are the Kardashians, because I read somewhere that I'm on Instagram, which I really like. There are lots of very cool people on that, but I read that their wedding pictures were the most liked photo on Instagram, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I can't be angry with them, because my thought is, what is up with all the people that are following them? So is this a global ego's attempt to get us involved and to keep us from going within? Because these things, like, they're the thing, and then someone else will crop up, and I'm wondering if that's like in the duality thing, and that's the last ditch attempt to keep people here. What are your thoughts about that?
Absolutely, because it is a great, oh my gosh, have you ever seen somebody who's addicted to like soap operas, right? It's like they live and breathe what's going on in the soap opera. That's what we do with the Kardashians and with celebrities and all of this kind of stuff, and it's like, you know what, honestly, let them have their life, and I'm so glad that they have a great life, and I have no envy. So here's the thing, look at what's within you. Are you envious? Do you wish you could be like them? Do you feel like you're in lack in some way and that you're not, like, worthy? Do you, and there's so many questions around that, but yeah, you know what it is? It is truly avoidance, because how much time everyone spends on gossiping and knowing about all these other people and what's going on in their lives, and it's so funny, because I'll just sit there and be like, when that happens, when I get into a group of people who are like that, it's sort of like I have very little to like, add into the conversation, because I don't really pay attention to any of that. And in all honesty, if you put a picture of Kim Kardashian, right? That's her name, right? You put a picture of her in front of me, I would have no idea who it was, because I really don't pay. I don't pay that much attention. Or if I see something on Facebook, I'll look at it and it's like, okay, whatever, and then I move on, but I very rarely retain the information. So that is definitely avoidance, and a huge collective practice of avoidance. And of course, that's also in a bigger way why then we judge other countries so harshly, other, civilizations so harshly, so other cultures so harshly, because whenever we judge, there's always something within ourselves to look at, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting. It's sort of like, there was a quote I saw a while ago. I can't remember who it was, but one of the original astronauts would talk about, like, they had a quote about, like, when he was out in space, all he saw was the globe. There were no lines. There were no separation. And I love that, because it's so true. It's like, we are so microscopic here. We forget that even if we live on the other side of the planet, we're all in this together. Even if we live on the other side of the universe or the galaxy, we're all in this together. So that's a whole topic for another day. But yeah, definitely, it's a great point, because when we get so caught up in others' drama, that's partially because we want to avoid looking at what's going on with us.
As you work on yourself, and as I know you know this, then all that stuff drops away, and then you can get to the point of you don't have that in your life. And so that's kind of where I am now, because I'm like, okay, you've obviously got to scrub some more, because you're seeing it, but that's airplane, oh, it's drama, I can watch it and let it go by and not affect me. But
sometimes when that comes back around to you, that's part of, like, the test that your higher self is giving to you is, can we just watch this pass us by and not get caught up in it? So that's why people ask me after they've done all this work, and they'll come to me and they're like, oh my God, I thought I was done with this, and now this has come up again. And I'm like, okay, but how are you reacting to it differently this time? Are you observing and not getting engaged and just letting it pass by you. I love that airplane thing because it's truly the same, a great metaphor for that. Of just, are you allowing it to go right by you? You jumping on, or the train, right? You're watching the train go by. You're gonna jump on the train and end up having to be forced going where it's going, kind of thing. So, yeah, that's a great point. But anyway, so we are. Oh my God, it's 9:30 already. So I guess there's just so much we talked about today. Wow. So in summary, I guess it's just. It is not, I just absolutely feel that it is easy to attain our spiritual growth and to really accelerate our awakeness, that's a great word, our remembrance and where we are in our awakening by doing this spiritual practice. But the thing is, it's just getting into the habit that we've gotten out of. And so the key is, that's why I say take 10, 15 minutes to yourself every day, because you're worth it, because you're like perfect and divine, and you are worth it above everything else. I don't care how many kids you have or what you have on your schedule. You can at least take 10 to 15 minutes a day where you can sit and do nothing and clear your mind, even if you just play some nice meditative music and don't think it. But the key is to let it go, because the more you do that, and the more you start being able to hear that higher self, it goes back to all the stuff we've talked about before, the easier it actually becomes. I mean, and you know, Julie, because you, like you said, you fought it for a long time, you started doing it, and you're like, well, what the heck, man? This is so easy in comparison. Like, why do we put so much energy into holding on to it?
Absolutely. So I'm just going to suggest to people this week and in the following weeks, be like an airplane. Can you, whatever it is, whether it's drama, gossip, whatever it is, can you stand and watch the airplane go by as you just are neutral and observe, and what can you learn about yourself, and what is the thing within you that saw that you can help fully clear. All right, everyone, I want to thank you this morning for joining us on Spiritual Coffee, and we will see you very soon. So get out there and make it a great day. Bye now.
Bye.